Hello, this is Christiane Piano, and welcome to your Reset Reflections. This week's episode is regarding self-care. It's a multifaceted conversation, and let's see what we will get to in this session. Self-care is a topic that comes up a lot when it comes to supporting yourself in your growth process and is an essential to body-mind well-being. So if you think of self-care, what do you think of? Probably what came across your mind is the food you eat, the amount of sleep you get, cleansing habits, outer and inner body, exercise. You may even consider socializing, spending time with friends and family, part of your self-care. And you may even add in spending time with the arts, music, education, reading. You may even consider spending time in nature, part of self-care. And when you think of yourself, what are your habits, disciplines, intentions regarding your own self-care? What is it that you put into practice on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a yearly? Just take a moment and have a think. And then, if you can, add to that, what is the amount of time you allot to yourself for self-care? And what does that look like? Now, often what will come up in conversation with people is when I ask them how much time they allot for self-care, they have a specific number in mind. What does that look like? 15 minutes daily, 30, or maybe it's not even on the daily. Maybe you allow yourself a couple times a week. Now, why do you think that is? Where do you think you learned that from? Where do you think you learned that only a certain amount of time is allowed for self-care? And then that's enough. Often people speak of guilt when they feel like they're taking too much time for themselves. Or people will say to themselves, okay, that's enough now, let's get to being productive. A while back, I did a reflection on productivity, so you may want to have a listen to that to understand your connection, deep interconnection between productivity and your relationship to productivity and your relationship to the time you will allot for yourself in self-care. Now, you may even have a desire to begin creating more space and time, or just starting to create space and time for your self-care. Say you'd like to start exercising more daily. Or you'd like to take the time to go grocery shopping and prepare your own food. Or you'd like to create more space for sleep, downtime, or rest, to recharge and reset. Or perhaps you'd like to create some more time for yourself because you've been over socializing, or vice versa. So I'm sure you've heard before that if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're really no good to you nor anyone else that's a part of your life. And what I mean by no good is you won't be available to be for others if you're not first and foremost being for yourself. And when you're taking the time to care for yourself and be for yourself and come back to neutral, you've reset, you've recalibrated, then when others are challenged in their life, you're able to simply be with them in that. Not doing anything for them necessarily, just hold the space for them to be wherever they are, whatever they're navigating. Because when we're out of balance and we're around others who are out of balance, we are challenged by being a space for others, holding a space of compassion. And self-care on a daily will support you in having enough energy to be available not only for yourself, but also for others. So a distinction I would like to introduce is workout versus work-in. So if I ask you what you do for a workout, I'm sure you'll create a list of things that you do, you've done, and perhaps would like to engage in doing. And workout is a common term connected to exercise. And when you have a desire to work out, or don't have a desire but have a disciplined practice of I do a workout every day because in some way, shape, or form, I know it supports me. You can begin to ask yourself the question, well, what is it that I need to work out? Workouts not only are good for all sorts of health reasons, from cardiovascular, blood pressure, to bone density, getting the endorphins flowing, clearing the mind, giving you a moment to put everything on pause, get a good sweat, and then rinse it off in the shower afterwards. And there's something around living daily life where stress and pressures and accumulations of toxins of all sorts, we need to clean them out. And a workout is about cleaning out. What is it I need to work out of my body-mind? And based on what you need to work out, there are then options you can choose on what would be most appropriate and support you in working that out. Now, most people don't necessarily consider some of the things I need to work out as an accumulation of negative energies and what would be most appropriate for that. So the span of what's needed based on your own personal needs is actually quite rich. And that is why if you begin in your self-care practices to ask yourself the question, how am I? And based on the answer, hopefully you're able to be as truthful as possible with yourself. You can then choose appropriately what will be most supportive for you in your self-care that day, whether it's movement or not. Now I come to the next piece, work in. If you were to think about what do you do for a work in, what is your answer? I actually did a little bit of a search to see if the phrase work in is even in common everyday language. And I discovered it is not. But it's a question I often ask people I interact with my work, and also in my private life. What do you do for a work in? And more often than not, people look at me confused. What do you mean a work in? This is just not a common question, nor is it part of the common language in this world. But maybe it will become after this reflection. Any case, not the point. A work in, I always suggest that people begin to explore after they've had their workout, after they've worked the speed out of their system, they've worked out the frustrations, the challenging emotions, physical sensations and thoughts, all the stuckness that comes with the challenges of life. So when you've worked it all out and you've reset yourself and you've come to a place of now I can do a work in, well, what does that look like? Well, it looks different for everyone. So rather than taking a look at what that would look like, let's think about what does a work-in support? After you've worked out stuckness, you're ripe and ready for softening. Why in the world would you want to soften? Well, there's a whole host of reasons why you would want to soften. First and foremost, the body's natural state is flow. And for flow to occur, it needs a soft terrain. But it also needs a terrain that's grounded. So if you haven't listened to the reflection on grounding yet, after you listen to this, you may want to go into listening to the reflection on grounding that dropped last week. You see, you will not soften if you don't feel like you have the support beneath you, around you, the ground beneath you, if not the people around you who will support you in softening. In living daily life, a lot of tensions are accumulated, and that stuckness creates lack of flow. Muscular tension, holding patterns that come with coping skills, defense mechanisms, habits of movement, undigested experiences, including traumas, any guardedness you may experience in perhaps not feeling safe, or feeling judged, or simply feeling like I just can't simply be myself. So there's an armor that's created energetically as well as physically in the musculoskeletal system. And so softening allows for what has not been digested to come to the surface and can begin to release. Softening allows for an opening. So a work-in provides you the opportunity to begin to allow for deep layers of digestion, deep layers of release, and creates space and a terrain in your inner landscape to begin to ask yourself the question, what is it that I would like to cultivate in this one and precious life I'm living? And as you slow down and begin to ask yourself, what is it I'd like to cultivate? When you're softened and open and vulnerable, releases will unfold naturally. Pressures will release on a deeper level. And as you're able to release and simply be with life as is, You'll get more comfortable being in silence, in not knowing, in knowing that you don't know, without creating pressure on yourself to know. And in sitting in that silent, empty, soft, fertile space, clarity will come through. It requires patience. And sometimes a workout supports you in releasing the frustration that comes when things aren't coming to you as quickly as you'd like, or they're not looking like, or you're not looking like, and you're not getting the results as quickly as you'd like. Cultivating patience and compassion into your self-care. All of this will support you in being with your life as it is. You have all sorts of experiences on the daily. And when you are able to be in the world and be with yourself, how you navigate the circumstances of your life, the people that are in your life, will have a gradual shift. So, if you're interested in exploring working in, if you're a Reset subscriber, I highly suggest begin to make use of the Sensescapes, which are available to everyone, subscriber or not. I suggest you listen to the reflections on a weekly basis and take the time to really reflect for yourself, perhaps more than once. A listen is required. I would suggest the Explorer section and the Somatic session. And then there's the Rest section. So wherever you are and whatever you're working with, and whatever you have access to, perhaps you'll begin to explore how working out can support your working in. And maybe you'll add 5 minutes or remove 5 minutes from your workout and add a work in at the 5 minutes at the end and gradually increase that. Wherever you are in your relationship to creating time and space to care for yourself, may you begin to explore the time you allot for that. Begin to question, who says how much time I'm allowed to allot to care for myself? Where did that come from? Perhaps you'll give yourself permission to create a cocktail of self-care that changes based on meeting yourself exactly where you are. And if you've gotten curious about this and would like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, feel free to reach out and schedule a free 15-minute consult. And if you're a current subscriber to your Reset and you are managing something challenging and would like some suggestions, reach out and ask me, the creator of the content, what it is I would suggest in supporting you. It's like a personal concierge service of a different kind. In any case, wherever you are, whatever you're navigating in your life, I do hope that you're practicing self-care. And if you've been thinking about it, but having quite started to begin to take action steps in realizing it, well, maybe this reflection will support you in moving from the idea to the action. However, this reflection has resonated with you, as you know, I love to hear back from you. And if you feel that this would be supportive of somebody else in your life, please do share. Feel free to follow or like, so more people will have access to this conversation.